Please welcome Senior Vice President of World of Hyatt at Hyatt, Amy Weinberg, the founder and editor-in-chief of The New Consumer, Dan Fromer, and the Chief Marketing Officer at Points, Danielle Brown, for a conversation moderated by Skift hospitality reporter Cameron Sperance.
Good day, everyone. I'm Skift hospitality reporter Cameron Sperance, and joining me today are Amy Weinberg, Dan Fromer, and Danielle Brown. Good day, everyone. How's it going?
Good.
Great, thanks.
Great. Well, we have a lot to cover. There's a lot of interest in loyalty, so let's get right to it. Everyone, we're seeing leisure travel really lead the recovery around the world, and most expect leisure travelers are going to continue to perform business travel for quite some time. So, Amy, let's start with you. How does a loyalty program like World of Hyatt really adapt to this new normal? Oh, Amy, I think you're on mute.
Is that better?
Much better.
Okay, I'm not sure what happened there. So I was saying hello, and I hope you're all well. Loyalty is focused on all types of travel. And one of the things that we pride ourselves on within World of Hyatt is being grounded in listening and truly differentiating. And when it comes to leisure, the types of trip that someone takes varies. Right now, it could be that they are in need of supporting someone in their family, and we want to make sure that we're there for that. It also could be that they really need a moment to recharge. So we continue to lean into what we hear is very important from our members and the flexibility that they can have when booking their travel, whether they're doing it for straight leisure or because, again, they may need to be supporting someone, or they could be an essential worker that's traveling, which I wouldn't put in the leisure camp. We really want to make sure that we're giving them choice, flexibility, and control. So leaning into great aspects and enhancements in the World of Hyatt app around our enhanced check-in capabilities, the ease around food and beverage ordering and direct to room, and the ability to schedule housekeeping are great assets that one can take advantage of regardless of the type of travel that they're having. And then ensuring that we have compelling promotions that are in the market as well are a couple of ways that we're leaning into leisure travel today and where people are and their readiness to travel.
Certainly. If you don't mind, like as a follow-up to that, though, I know obviously this is just such an unprecedented event, and I think a lot of hotel companies are grappling with kind of changes to their loyalty programs. So considering how many people are kind of rushing to adapt, how do you make World of Hyatt stand out above the pack?
World of Hyatt's points of differentiation really come true in leisure travel. So one of the things that was introduced in another tough time in travel during the downturn in 2009 were confirmable upgrades at time of booking, which is a point of differentiation that is one of our milestone rewards. So we can continue to lean into our points of difference that we have, and then making sure some of the adaptation that we've done during the pandemic is giving people more time to use their points, to use those earned milestone rewards, and also make sure that they can enjoy their status even if they can't travel right now. So the types of changes that you'll see will continue to lead into points of differentiation that we have in caring for people so they can be their best, and making sure that we're evolving through listening and differentiating.
Great. Danielle, I want to kick this over to you because I feel like in recent years, definitely, we've seen a lot of loyalty programs definitely zero in on the corporate traveler. And I'm curious, now that we're going to be focusing more on leisure travel for the next couple of years, I mean, could we see this be the end of some of those minimum spends that some companies like the airlines have put on to achieve loyalty status? Or do you see any other changes coming?
Well, it's thanks for the question, Cameron. It's interesting, really, when we go back to that, if we think about it from our world, which is loyalty currency retailing, traditionally, where people have taken advantage of that, loyalty program members have taken advantage of that, has been that they have done a lot of their earn through business travel, right? And have been redeeming in a lot of ways through their leisure travel. So one of the things that we saw start to happen at the beginning of this pandemic is obviously with people not traveling imminently as much, those needs-based currency purchases started to fall by the wayside. But what we started to see was those aspirational purchases where we would have people hoarding, and this is still happening, where our average transaction sizes on loyalty currency purchases are actually ballooning so that they can save for these aspirational type of trips and purchases. And what's really interesting here is there's this hopeful message in there where even though we see the actualities of travel diminishing during this time, the forward planning and the hope of that aspirational aspect of traveling, so that more leisure aspect seems to be top of mind with people who are transacting in loyalty currency.
Interesting. Well, Dan, speaking of consumer shifts, things like that, are you seeing any trends in retail that might indicate how loyalty programs may evolve?
Yeah, I also want to bring up my favorite quote of the summer, which is from the Chief Revenue Officer of American Airlines, saying that companies like American need to stop thinking about customers as a series of transactions and actually start thinking about them as customers, as people. Which, yes, thank you. Finally, I think we now acknowledge the reality of the situation, and talking to people in the consumer world, the feeling is always that that loyalty programs, especially in hospitality, often make life feel like a class system and less like something that people are actually excited to be a part of, and less like a club. And that's where I wrote a piece recently on the New Consumer called "Travel is Back**," and really highlighting some ideas that and stuff that I really want to work more on for future articles, thinking about how to make loyalty something that people are actually excited to be a part of and not kind of begrudgingly feel like, oh, am I going to get to this next level of status? For me, this is the first year where I'm measuring my self-worth in something other than my airline status, which is kind of sad to think about. So I look at retail and I see a lot of similarities with hospitality, but also a lot of differences. And I think one of the more interesting things that loyalty does in retail is when successful, and if you look at something like the Starbucks Rewards program, where it's really a personalized program that helps unlock experiences, obviously incremental spend as well, but it's really doing that on a personalized level where they're even going down to the regular drink that you order and sending you personalized content and incentives to go after that. Another one that's been really successful over the past year is the Chipotle loyalty program, which has signed up more than 15 million members already. And they also talk about it as a way to use it for personalized deals and incentives in order to unlock extra spend, of course, but also drive fondness and loyalty to the company and other experiences. So
I think, how would that translate exactly over into travel? I mean, is it like at the 10th stay of a DoubleTree, instead of one chocolate chip cookie, they pass over the whole platter, or do you get like a free topping sauce at United? I mean, do you have any idea of like what that looks like in a travel world?
Well, yeah. I appreciate you pivoting and letting me jump in there because I wanted to. So one of the things that we introduced, I think grounded in this, right, are within our milestone rewards, which we've introduced, right? Every 10 nights, there's something rewarding instead of having just these major milestones where perhaps it felt very transactional. But importantly in that, there's choice, right? So for some of our milestones, you can choose a gift card that you can use in a Hyatt hotel. You can choose points. You can choose experiential items. And again, I think that it's true now. People need flexibility and control, but choice is always something that people have wanted. And I'm not sure that the one size fits all forever. And I'm happy to say that we've heard that before. We've leaned into it, and we always look to have options available. Not just sort of a single answer. Again, the ability to use your free night awards or your club access awards when you want to use them, right, is another structure that goes into that, because again, not all stays are the same, and we want to make sure that we're really leaning into the individual member and what matters to them in that moment. And the more that we can do that, I do think will continue to drive loyalty. And I'm very happy that we have both our tier statuses, but importantly, the milestone reward structure to help with more rewards more often.
I think
oh, sorry. Go ahead. I'll respond in a minute. Yeah.
If I can build on one of Amy's points too, is while we're talking about choice in programs as well, one of the things that I know Hyatt does really well, and they are one of our partners, full disclosure, is that it's beyond choice, I think, also, where it's also about the utility of the currency, right? And it's about beyond just the choice, it's how else can you be using your currency to redeem? And can you pool? Can you transfer? Can you do all of these things where the currency becomes more useful and therefore the program becomes more sticky, right?
I think along those lines, going back to this idea of treating us like customers and not just as a series of transactions, I think the actual truth is you need to use both of those things. And Amy, I'm a mere explorist this year, unfortunately, and so. But what you know about me is that I spend all my points, which is basically every dollar I've ever spent on a credit card, at two of your hotels, at the Andaz Tokyo and the Park Hyatt Tokyo. And what I haven't heard from Hyatt in the last 6 months is I have not been getting emails saying, hey, here's what's going on at your favorite hotels. We're excited to welcome you back to these hotels someday. Here's what's going on in the city, in the neighborhood. Do you know that there's a subway station that's being built underneath Toronto Hills? All these things. And I think that's where there's an opportunity where hospitality companies could really ramp up their publishing and media and really make me feel like I am missing out by not being there at the moment. I can't be there. But I think that's another opportunity to really build a stronger loyalty that goes beyond simply redemptions and earning.
So Dan, I take that to heart and I appreciate that feedback. We definitely lean into our members' day-to-day lives and their interests, not just their stay lives, is oftentimes how I talk about that. Today's day and age, we've talked a lot about what's local to someone, right? So we have promotions around earning 3 points per dollar spent, even if you're just dining, but not traveling and staying in a hotel. And we actually see great traction with those in markets like Tokyo. So I'm happy to report a little bit of news, I guess, back in your favorite hotels. But
amazing.
It is good to hear and good fodder for us to think about. So I appreciate that.
Great. And real quick, I want to give some attention to our audience. We just put out a poll of what motivates you more to book a hotel or airline ticket. Just want to draw attention. 46% say costs, 29% say brand loyalty, and 25% say incentives and perks. Before I get back to my own questions, I did want to take one from the audience. And Amy, I thought this one was interesting. Is there any potential to pivot accrued loyalty rewards to other, perhaps digital experiences, as travel restrictions are a reality we're likely to have to face for some degree in the years ahead?
So I think we have philosophies around our currency, right? I think Danielle pointed out that we have a highly valued currency that can unlock a lot of great experiences. Many people choose to use that in hotels, but those are not the only ways in which someone can redeem today. In the space of digital, one of the things that we did, we have a partnership with Headspace. And as we were bringing that to bear, we had some thoughts about how that programming would work. As we entered into the pandemic, we quickly pivoted and we made always on mindful moments and opportunities available. You don't have to pay for them with currency, but in the World of Hyatt app. So we are always looking for ways, whether it's through currency purchases, if you will, or redeeming points, but to be present and to help in our members' lives, right? As an organization that's grounded in caring for people so they can be their best, that goes beyond the walls of our hotels and our great digital experiences. And we really want to lean into their lives and provide them with aspects that could be enriching holistically. Again, not always with a cost. In this case, Headspace doesn't have that, but it's always available to you in the World of Hyatt app.
And also one other follow-up from the audience for you, Amy, is do you see any more focus in revenue stream diversity at your properties, such as reaching more of the community through food and beverage, and that would be people obviously who aren't actually staying at the hotel, or allocating some kitchen space to a virtual restaurant?
So we've seen both of those in our hotels. So our hotels are very involved in the communities in which they operate. And so both in the sense of giving, whether that can be through space, through food in some cases and other items, or access. But we definitely have seen pop-up use in our hotels for some restaurants. And I would also say that we have seen a growth in carry out from some of our food and beverage outlets and the likes in many parts of the world. Our strength in food and beverage is something that Hyatt has had for decades. We have many celebrated chefs, and so the hotels are a destination if that is the place that someone's leaving their home for but not ready to travel yet. And again, we've seen some really great growth there. So I think we'll continue to see our hotels lean into their communities, both in support, but also into the individuals who reside there, whether or not they're traveling.
Great, thank you. Danielle and Dan, I did want to open this one up to y'all. The notion of agility, and especially as it relates to loyalty, how important is it to kind of be agile, think fast, adapt to travel's new normal right now, both as honestly a means of survival, but also potentially capturing market share and boosting membership in the short term?
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculously important. And we're actually seeing loyalty programs understand that to their core right now, right? Where their airlines and hotels their properties themselves are not earning like they used to. So they're looking to loyalty programs to kind of overachieve on their revenue numbers. And what we've been seeing is a lot of innovation, or a lot of requests for innovation around that currency utility all over the globe. Personally, our pipeline right now is as solid as it's ever been, as people are looking for new and different ways to use currency. And I think the important thing to note here is, for the loyalty program themselves, that the more you do in the program, the more it indicates your engagement. So for example, someone who participates in a buy miles transaction, in the program themselves, their lifetime value is going to be 3 to 4 times higher over their life, because it shows engagement. You're investing in the program, and then you have this continued relationship with it.
Seeing similar things in financial services too. If you look at what Chase has done, obviously so much of the loyalty program associated with credit cards is around travel, both earning and spend, but recognizing that most people are not traveling right now, adding grocery as a category where you can not only earn extra points, but also redeem at a greater value, it is a good example of agility. You know, I obviously would love to see more of it as someone who analyzes, but also who participates in this industry. But I think that's a good example as well.
Great. And I also wanted to ask both of you, and Amy, hop in here too as well. We have another question from the audience of, what is y'all's view on paid loyalty programs?
I can start, I guess. I think one of the points that Dan made earlier is important, as anyone might consider adding a paid element. It's a relationship, is how I think about loyalty. It's how World of Hyatt thinks about loyalty. And deep, rich relationships aren't bought. They are bi-directional. There is a recognition of one another and a level of understanding. And so leaning into that loyalty when someone has choice is very important. And philosophically is where, I would stand as an individual against what true loyalty is, because it is that day-to-day choice. And then our role and our job, and we have amazing operators around the world in our hotels, have welcome open arms to recognize that loyalty when members stay. And that's when an individual is celebrated. And I think that's when loyalty is felt, much like loyalty is in our personal relationships.
I think that's so well put by Amy, and I think we did a survey just recently on why people were purchasing loyalty currency, and we talked to an airline partner and a hotel partner's members, and the stunning thing to me is during this pandemic, 40% of respondents said we purchased this currency because we wanted to contribute back to our favorite airline or hotel or program. The notion of that, when we think of us being cynical as consumers to large corporations, and yet we have these individuals saying, I bought this currency because I want to make sure they're okay and I love them and I want them to be there when I'm ready to travel again. So there is that notion of that reciprocity. It's a hopeful thing that's been lovely to see.
I think it's an interesting idea. I mean, anytime there's a transfer of currency and value in either direction, there's certainly different expectations. And there obviously are paid loyalty programs, paid membership programs. A lot of them are designed around getting discounts. So I don't know, that's kind of more a transactional thing. If there were a, Hyatt Lovers Club that I could pay, I don't know, $100, a couple $100 a year to join and get access perhaps behind the scenes to different experiences, I would consider that. I think that could be interesting. I think speaking of paid loyalty and different pricing, I think, another thing I'd love to see more experimentation around are simply, straight up pricing experiments, whether it's a subscription program where you can access, unlimited flying or stays or something like that. I think now is certainly a time for experimentation around those types of things. And whether that's technically part of a loyalty program or not, I think certainly the next year or so is a great time to experiment. I know I know lots of caveats, especially in the hotel industry where you have many different parties at play, but I think people would be really excited to see things like that right now.
Definitely. Well, Dan, something I did want to go back to is sort of this retailization of some hotel space. We've seen a couple of hotel companies start to kind of promote alternative uses of these empty hotel rooms, and players like MGM Resorts International, Mandarin Oriental with these work from a hotel programs. We've seen a subscription model from Citizen M. I'm just kind of curious, what's your take on sort of the longevity of things like this? And could that be yet another retail trend you see coming into hotels?
I mean, I think longevity may be the wrong question in the retail industry. I think survival is probably the bigger thing that they're obsessed with right now, as one should be. But I love this model. I think it's really interesting. The ACE hotel lobbyification of hospitality and retail is very smart. People for the foreseeable future are going to be nervous about who they're spending time in close proximity with, especially for longer periods of time. But I also think people are a little tired of being at home. As much as I love this room that I'm in right now, I would happily spend some time in a cool lobby for a few hours a week, I think, especially once case counts are really under control. So I love it. I think it's really interesting. A lot of it is going to be out of necessity. I loved this on-demand WeWork that they had in Manhattan. I think it's a really exciting idea about taking a beautiful space and putting up some sort of, I don't want to say barrier in terms of entry, but at least some familiarity, where contact tracing would actually be a real possibility, where you could build some sort of community, but also have a bit of an escape, maybe a great coffee or a nice salad or something like that. And I'd love to see more experimentation around that. I think, hotels have beautiful spaces, whether it's a conference room or, with a nice view over the city or a park, or even a lobby. Definitely room for experimentation there.
I'd love to jump in if I could for a quick second. So, I think many marveled at individuals who became digital nomads and might have moved out onto the road, right? I think that and the times, and Dan said it well, people do want a change of scenery, right? And recently we launched Work from Hyatt. So it is exactly that. It is a package to help you be productive in your work life with or without children, depending on your setup. And so the types of amenities that are made available, while they vary by hotel, they also can vary to your needs, right? It could be that you need some support with children. It could be that you need a private workspace. But it is very much tapping into that insight, which is there are a lot of people that are ready for a change of scenery. And we've seen great traction with it. Some of the markets you can imagine that are getting good bookings are warmer climates as temperatures are changing in parts of the world. But, we see great traction into Florida and Cabo San Lucas and other places. I can attest to the Cape, which is a Thompson hotel that joined us recently, is a great place to go and work from Hyatt if you want to do that. So it's very much something people are looking for, and we're seeing really good traction with it.
Great. We only have a couple of minutes left, but one thing I did want to ask, just because business travel has been so tethered to a lot of these loyalty programs, Danielle, do you get any sense of reading kind of the tea leaves of when, or not just when, but how business travel may come back? Because I thought it was kind of an interesting conversation yesterday. IHG's Keith Barr said that there is kind of this misconception that business travel is completely zapped. And in fact, it is still there. It's just not the type that is staying in an upscale hotel in a major city. It's more at the Holiday Inn spectrum, where you have more of your essential workers, construction workers who have to be at a job site. That is still technically business travel. And I'm just curious if, with that mindset, could loyalty programs have to adapt to appeal more to those types of travelers, or basically how is business travel going to come back?
If I could answer this question, I'd be very
a lot of numbers after you can answer that.
but I think, to your point, we've honestly, I think we've all been hearing the projections of anywhere out from 2 years to 6 years, and it depending on your market. And what's really been interesting to me, though, is it's really been that what seems to be industry consensus is it's domestic business travel first, right? And I think that's clear in what all of our borders are doing right now. So I do think that the work from Hyatt that Amy talked about, things like that are going to be the things that are going to kickstart travel. And I think as we all get a little more used to getting on our first airplane, I haven't done it yet, but getting on our first airplane and dipping our toe in the water, for everyone I know who has done it, they would do it again, right? And I think it's just a question of incentivizing that first toe in.
Great. One last question for you all is, when everything is fully recovered, the year that keeps getting thrown around is 2024. We shall see. But when things are fully recovered, do you expect loyalty programs to go back to exactly the way they were, or are there going to be some permanent adjustments in light of the pandemic?
Again, I'll start. I think good programming and brands evolve. And so I'm confident that you will see smart innovations as we continue to evolve in World of Hyatt. When the program relaunched in 2017, we introduced a My Hyatt Concierge, which is, an individual that can help look after our top tier members. Those individuals have, made phone calls, have checked in, have had that conversation just to make sure people are well, even if they're not on the road yet for whatever reason. And, those types of innovations were happening prior, and they will happen during, and they should shape then what 2024 might look like as normal course. And so I'm happy to report that, I can imagine you'll continue to see us bring things to market that will evolve and change, because as you stay grounded in listening and understanding, you have to bring differentiation into market. And I think we can point to some really good examples within World of Hyatt.
I think from our perspective, one of the things that when we were talking about innovation a little bit before, and loyalty programs are looking for new ways to be able to make their currency more flexible and actually more ubiquitous in the world of their loyalty program members, I think that's going to be one of the things that sticks, right? The utility of that currency and the ability to do it, especially in the burn cycle, and looking at different ways and opportunities to be able to pull in those different redemption options are going to be a thing that not only sticks, but that really creates an ecosystem of each different airline and hotel's loyalty currency.
Great. And Dan, anything to add?
I just want to say, I really hope that programs do change, and I hope they become more fun. I think they're, I think people love to travel. They love hospitality. They love the feeling of flying somewhere and going somewhere new. And a lot of these programs are just a real downer. They're really hard to use, super frustrating. They make you feel bad. They're not doing what you want them to do. And I hope that this time, and realizing all the complexities around IT and different parties and scaling. I know scaling is super hard, but I think it's an opportunity to make programs that feel more fun, that feel more inclusive, that make you feel closer to the properties, to the brands, that are more like a community, not only in the way that they're set up, but also in some of the benefits. And I think that are a joy to use, and that make people really, really feel loyal, and not just like they have some sort of currency that they have to spend before it becomes useless.
Great. Well, with that, we have to go, but I can't thank all three of you nearly enough for appearing at Skift Global Forum today. Thanks, everyone, and thanks to our audience for tuning in. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Be well.